so I think there's a reason why people say don't go back and watch your favorite childhood movies. As I found out this weekend, it is extremely true thanks to Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed. Our film opens with the gang having all of their monsters' costumes on display at the local Coolsville Museum. It's basically the red carpet for a town where 16-year-olds are better detectives than police officers. After some schmoozing with the press and fans, disaster strikes when an old foe, the pterodactyl ghost, shows up to wreak havoc on the gang and patrons of Coolsville Museum. While the gang is doing their best to stop the ghost from hurting someone and destroying everything, the local news reporter is trying to capture the whole thing for her breaking headline. Soon after, a masked man shows up to declare that the gang stop pretending to be detectives and turn themselves in, or else Coolsville will succumb to more demise from his evil plans. This sparks the beginning of the plot along with the multiple little plot lines that we'll get to later on. In terms of characters, honestly there's not much to say when it comes to Fred and Daphne. Fred is a pretty vain individual, which you are shown within like the first 5 minutes. While Fred is giving out his ascots to the fangirls outside the museum, like how many ascots do you have and bring with you? It's like a magic show for college pedos when he starts taking them out of his shirt. Daphne, on the other hand, doesn't have much depth to her character or really any struggles. Sarah Michelle Gellar is essentially just Daphne the Monster Slayer with her surprising martial arts skills. Right from the start of the film, you can tell that Shaggy and Scooby are the stoner screw-ups of the crew. I mean, just look at Shaggy's tux alone. This scene in specific shows what they were insinuating when creating the character styling of Shaggy. Scooby, on the other hand, now I know what you're thinking and I just need you to bear with me, is just a little bit too cartoony for his own good. Yeah, I understand it's an animated film for kids underneath their parental guidance, but still, he's more of a hindrance than comic relief. I actually loved the depth of character they gave Velma in the story. She wasn't just tagging along with Fred and Daphne the whole time. They gave her a chance to actually have qualities and interests other than smarts and science. Especially with the museum guy, it gives her a chance to have her own little plot line and internal struggle, which is a nice change of pace from the way Velma is usually portrayed. Seth Green's character is actually one of the better fleshed out characters throughout the entire film. We are introduced to him as the curator of the museum exhibit and longtime fan of Mystery Inc., especially Velma. Wink wink nudge nudge. While the story plays out, you find yourself turning more and more against him for his intense interest in Velma and what his true motives are. The reporter is my absolute least favorite character in this entire movie. She then makes it seem like the gang is just a bunch of self-loving celebrities using their own words against them in sneaky editing tricks that look like a 10-year-old who got their first HP laptop edited in Movie Maker. Seth Green's character shows a high interest in Velma that she just can't ignore, so she asks Daphne for guy advice, that way she can wow him the next time they meet to work on a case together. This leads to the creation of Hot Velma.
Who's your mommy?
But she inevitably embarrasses herself.
Raise your right paw. No, your right paw. Scooby-Doo.
Shaggy and Scooby overhear the gang talking about how much of screw-ups and goofballs they are. After hearing this, Shag and Scoob decide to take matters into their own hands.
You know, Scoob, we could act like real detectives.
While Shaggy and Scooby sneak off to a nightclub that all their old villains hang out at to get some info.
Hey! Everyone part like the Red Sea. It's me, Shizzy McCreepy, and my brother, SD McCrawley. We are in the house and ready to partay.
This leads to probably one of the greatest scenes in the entire film.
Groovy! Here we go. Roll.
Thank you for letting me be myself again. At the very start, we were like, and now we like party people who don't give a raise the roof, moved up to a higher level. Now we're getting more up from us and 40 people. So I say, all the haters who wouldn't believe in us, and I say, all the people who told us we could have bust. So here we are now, blowing up now. I just wanna thank you.
You came to USA we knew we was gonna make it, because we just too real and we can't fake it. We hot like, see me being me is the thing I do. Never ever had to change before. I keep it real for my dogs, make them jump on the floor from the front to the back. I make them all want more something. Yeah. Thank you for rating me be myself again. Oh yeah. It's Scooby-Doo!
They run into Velma's love interest, which brings up some very interesting questions for the duo, and later down the line an internal struggle in Velma. Since the very first instance that this reporter has shown up, I knew that she was not a good person. She's continuously pushing through Daphne to get to Fred, says snarky remarks to the gang,
to unmask those who pretend to be who they're not.
and also uses everything they say out of
You
context.
take everything I say out of context. You're trying to make it look like I think Coolsville sucks. No, don't record that.
Reporters. Am I right? The only question during this side plot is why does she have such a problem with the gang? This causes the gang to become suspicious of her because she's always where the monsters are going to attack and disappears when the masked man shows up. That is until the masked man shows up while she's talking to the gang. The finale of this movie is pretty fucking dark for a children's movie. The masked man brings all of the villains to life and orders them to attack Coolsville until Mystery Incorporated comes out of hiding. After a very sweet vintage montage of the gang at their old treehouse plays, they figure out how to stop the monsters and travel back into the city to stop the masked man. After splitting up and fighting various monsters on their own, the gang reassembles at the control panel station so they can shut off the monsters destroying the town. This is where it gets super dark. As the gang is trying to reach the control panel station, the black tar ghost shows up and just starts swallowing everybody like the Blob, and we see the entire gang except for Scooby actually start to suffocate and be killed. As the gang begs for help while they slowly lose air, Scooby is scared and is backed into a corner where he stumbles upon a fire extinguisher. Using his brain to create the coolest scene of this film, he sprays the tar monster with the fire extinguisher close up to create a liquid nitrogen based dry ice on the monster. This freezes the tar monster and allows Scoob to start freeing his friends one by one, as he literally snowboards across the tar monster, saving his friends, the town, and day. The masked man then gets unmasked by the gang just to find out it's none other than the reporter and her cameraman. They were in on it together. That's why she was at the masked man sighting. The villains get arrested, Scooby saved the day in a really cool way, Velma and her mans confess their feelings, and all of our side plots along with normal plot come to a close. All in all, I really did enjoy watching this film again, but if you're like me and haven't seen it within the past 7+ years, I don't think you would enjoy it that much. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and turn notifications on. Check out these 5 things you didn't know about Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed. Comment anything else you would want to see me do in the future. Until next time, peace.